Hi you guys, welcome back to my channel, and today we will be talking about my number one mystery movie, Hoodwink. Now, everybody knows the story of Little Red Riding Hood. Well, this is the story of Little Red Riding Hood with a twist. Instead of her taking goodies to her grandma, well, her grandma is this famous baker, and she had her own and the grandma had her own recipe book, which which is the main reason we're talking about this movie. But I'll get to that later on in the video. So we fast forward to Little Red Riding Hood going to the house, and she's already there, and she knocks on the door, and she goes into her grandma's room. And you guys know how the book goes. Grandma, what big teeth you have. Grandma, what big ears you have. So anyway, it starts off with the wolf breaking off the grandma mask that he found in the closet, and he was actually dressed as the grandma to get information about how she's getting the goodies and why does she deliver to her grandma every week. And then it's and then um and then the grandma jumps out of the closet, but she's tied up with something, and then all of a sudden this this big guy with an axe busts through the door, ends up busting through the window and making everybody scream. So we cut through that to an investigation between like the police and all these reporters coming up to the old lady's house, her grandma's house, and it turned out that they are trying to do an investigation to find out how this all happened. So basically, the bear, the chief, said that he got this case all wrapped up because he knew that the wolf was trying to eat the little girl, and he knew that the little girl was making deliveries for grandma. And he basically charged the wolf with breaking and deceiving and attempt to eat. But that is not the end of the story, because we're going to get to the best part of the story where we meet Nicky Flippers. Now, Nicky Flippers is this frog, and he busts in and he says, okay, not so fast, we got to get everybody set in the story. So, Little Red Riding Hood, which is played by my girl Anne Hathaway, the girl who played in the Princess Diaries, and the girl who played in Ella Enchanted. She did so good in those movies. Kudos to you, Anne Hathaway. So, she's telling the story about when she went to her grandma's house, how everything was so awkward, and she could tell from right off the bat that that wasn't the grandma. So, it turned out that she called her grandmother earlier that day, and then the grandmother sounded like she was in trouble, so that's the reason why she went down there in the first place. But as we get to the wolf side of the story, it turns out that he's a reporter, and a lot of goodies and a lot of recipes and a lot of bakeries have been closed all around the forest because the recipes are being stolen. But they don't know by who. So he was under he was under an investigation because he was investigating Little Red Riding Hood to see if she was the bandit. You know, stealing all the recipes and all that jazz. So, so he actually finds out that Little Red Riding Hood does make visits to her grandma, but she's not the bandit. And let's not forget about her little friend Boingo, this little rabbit who is oh so cute and cuddly, and they have been friends for a very, very long time. But it turns out that the rabbit has been popping up where the wolf was, and he actually knew where Little Red Riding Hood's grandma's house was. So keep that in you guys' mind as I continue this story. Okay, so the third person that they bring in the question is Kurt. Now Kurt is this actor who sells this schnitzel. I have no idea. It's like basically meat on a stick. That is what schnitzel is. So his job is like to sell schnitzel, but on the side he's an actor. And so that day, he actually failed his first audition, but the director took a look at his tape and said, "Hey, if you come back as a woodsman for this part, we will give you this part to sell bunion cream." Okay, so the director gives him instructions to go into the woods and to chop down a tree and to find the little woodsman inside of him. So it turned out that the whole swinging at everybody act that he did at the beginning, it was an accident. He was chopping down a tree, and the tree actually fell on his own, pushing him through the grandmother's house, pushing him through the window. And that's why he was yelling and swinging the axe, because it was an accident and he got scared. And then the last person that they question is Granny. Now, I gotta give you guys this. She is not no ordinary granny. She does not stay in knit sweaters or play bingo at the bingo parlor. No. She surfs. This girl skis. This girl even wrestles. So that day that Little Red Riding Hood called her, she was actually going to the ski event. She was actually going to the ski event, and one of the teams that she was competing against knocked her over and made her lose one of her skis. So that's why when Little Red Riding Hood called her for the second time, that's why she yelled, because she almost fell off. But she got her balance back into this back, and she ended up actually winning the race and actually doing it on one ski instead of two, which I think is very impressive, because I would lose my balance if you knock me off a ski and I can just use just one like she does. So that is like very impressive. Well, to me it is. So it turns out that the grant it turns out that the granny has been lying to Red because Little Red Riding Hood's never been outside the forest. But you got the granny over here living it up, living La Vida Loca, doing surfing, swimming, all of this adventurous stuff. And Little Red Riding Hood just feels like she has been lied to because her and her granny used to be so close. So this is when they actually have a falling out, and the police actually have the goodies in custody. So keep that in mind as I go on. So since Little Red Riding Hood is upset, she actually drops her hood off and she runs outside to walk by the river, and the sad music plays and whatever. And it turns out that they actually follow the grandma, because the grandma's actually wearing the red hood, now. So as Little Red Riding Hood just walking along the river, we skip on to the other half of the movie where the detective Nikki Flippers says, "You have all come together tonight as a mistake." And he says, "There is one person that hippity hopped through all your stories. And yes, there was someone else on that train with Little Red Riding Hood when she was riding the train to get to your house." And when I say train, I actually mean cable car. You see, Little Red Riding Hood and her friend Boingo was riding the cable car, but someone pushed the button to let her out. And it turned out that it was her friend Boingo that stole all the recipes from everybody so he could be famous and add this whole ingredient called boinganium, which I guess is like some sugar. I don't know what um um boinganium is. So it turned out that he stole all the recipes and that he is just gonna blow the competition away. So he's actually just gonna bomb the forest to make room for his new bakery that he is opening up all on his own, and that the world will soon be his because people will start respecting him and not seeing him as the little guy. So Red ends up finding it out that that her that her best friend Boingo is the bandit, the one that's selling all the recipes, and he tries to play it cool, but it turned out that our girl Anne Hathaway is too smart for that. So he says, "Oh, someone's finally catching up. I didn't follow you on your little deliveries to your grandma's house to spend time with you. And he actually says that and he actually says I and he actually ends up getting into a fight with her, and she end up and he ends up winning the fight, but she does try. I mean, she took karate, so she doesn't end up kicking him very good, but he ends up finding her back and kicking her really hard, and he says, "What are you gonna do? Go crying to your granny?" But it turned out that the granny and the wolf and Twitchy, um um the camera guy who helps the wolf, it turned out that they're all in the schnitzel truck and they're all gonna go rescue Red from Boingo. So it turned out that Boingo ended up putting Little Red Riding Hood on a train, and at the end of the line, at the end of the cable car line, it's gonna end up blowing up with dynamite. But it turned out that her and the granny end up working together and they end up getting out of the cable car. But Boingo was right on their but um, but the bunny Boingo is right on their tail, but they do end up getting away um by by taking their hmm, by taking their hoods, and they end up flying. I have no idea how they end up flying with their Little Red Riding Hoods, but it is a pretty cool thing to see with them flying with their Little Red Riding Hoods. I had no idea how they did that, but it is a cool idea. So it turned out that Boingo ended up getting arrested, and Flippers the frog ends up hiring the wolf, Little Red Riding Hood, and the granny as this agency called Happy Ever After Agency. And this actually leads to a pretty good sequel called Hoodwink 2. And for all in all, this was actually a pretty good movie. Okay, I'm gonna tell you my three favorite characters: the wolf, Anne Hathaway as Little Red Riding Hood, and Nikki Flippers. And all in all, it was a pretty good movie, and it is definitely a rewatch. And I love the little spin that they put on this classic old fairy tale. And they did pretty good with Hoodwink too. Anyway, that was my video. I will see you guys later for my next video. Bye.